Have you run out of great ideas for podcast content? Or maybe you're just starting out and you need to figure out what you're going to talk about in the first place. Watch this video. I've got some tips for you, and I'm going to share my 10-10-10 content discovery formula. Okay, let's talk about this issue of podcast topics. And I'm talking about individual topics for your individual episodes within your podcast. It doesn't really matter what your overall topic or podcast thrust is. You need to be able to have episodic content that is engaging, that makes sense relating to other content you've already shared, and is able to keep listeners listening. Otherwise, your podcast is not going to grow. I want to walk you through my 10-10-10 content discovery process. All right, the first 10 that you're going to face refers to 10 minutes, okay? And what you're going to do is get out a timer. You're going to set your timer for 10 minutes, and then you're going to lay a piece of paper or a blank computer screen or something else in front of you so that you can start brain dumping onto that paper. And before you hit the timer, let me give you a little suggestion about what you're going to do. You're going to focus your mind on the things that could be addressed on your podcast, either by you or by an expert guest, that have to do with the main purpose of your show. Ask yourself, what are my listeners coming to my podcast to find out? What are they coming to discover? What do they want to learn? What problems do they have that I can solve? And with all that in mind, you want to start your timer and just start brain dumping topic ideas around those questions. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get perfectly crafted sentences. Just one after another, get them down on paper and do as many as you can during that 10 minutes. Don't self-edit. Don't decide that certain ideas are bad ideas right now. Just get everything out on paper. Okay, time's up. Your 10 minutes is over. The next 10 in the 10-10-10 content discovery process is another 10-minute block. And what you're going to do in this 10-minute block is you're going to take those topics you just wrote down and you're going to arrange them in a sequence that makes sense. You may approach this from a standpoint of, like, if you're teaching something, you want one topic that builds on another topic that builds on another topic, and you need to kind of reverse engineer it so that you know where you want your listeners to end up and how you're going to get them there step by step, just going backwards and laying out your topics. For this reason, because you're sequencing things, you may want to do this either with sticky notes if you're writing it out and you write one topic per sticky note, or you're going to do it on a computer where you can cut and paste and rearrange things. Either way, the second 10-minute section is for sequencing the topics that you've written out in a way that makes sense to you. Now, it's possible you won't get through all of your topics in the first 10-minute interval. That's fine. Just sequence as many as you can. When your timer goes off and you're done, stop your process. Okay, my final 10 in my 10-10-10 content discovery process is another 10-minute interval. You're going to set that timer for 10 minutes. And this time, you're not going to brain dump like you did in the first 10 minutes. You're not going to sequence or order the things in the next 10 minutes. You're going to create 3 topic subpoints under every topic, starting at the very top of your list. So in other words, if you put down a topic of content marketing using Facebook, all right, you're going to put 3 points underneath that are the basic elements involved in accomplishing that topic, okay? And you're not going to self-edit again. You're just going to get down 3 points, move on to your next one. Get down 3 points, move on to your next one. Get down 3 points, move on to your next one. That's what you're going to do in this 10-minute process. Again, you may not get through all of the topics that you've got on paper and that you've sequenced, but that's okay. When your 10 minutes is over, you let that timer go off, you stop your process, and then you're going to move on. Okay, so now you've got a list of 10, 12, 15 possibly topics with 3 subpoints. Now, if this sounds like your high school English literature class teaching you how to make an outline, you're exactly right. That's exactly what you've done, except you've done it for multiple episodes of your podcast with a basic outline in place, so that if you are the expert and you're going to be doing the teaching, you know your content already, it's in your brain from experience, from your education. You may be able to just sit down with your list as you have it in this form and start recording episodes, just kind of riffing off the basic outline that you have. If you don't feel comfortable with that, or if you don't feel you're the expert, you may need to sit down with your list again in another 10-minute section. This one's not mandatory, but if you need it, do it. And in that 10 minutes, you're going to decide with each of those topics, am I going to speak about this, or am I going to seek an expert guest? And you're just going to go beside your 3 bullet points under the main heading and say, me, guest, me, guest. And you go through systematically deciding what kind of episode each of those is going to be. Now, that's the basics of the 10-10-10 content discovery process. Now, keep in mind, once you're done with this, even if you do the additional bonus 10 minutes and decide if you're going to be the speaker or if a guest is going to be the presenter, you're still going to have to do a little bit of legwork after this fact. You're going to have to flesh out outlines if you feel like you need that. You're going to have to identify guests if you've decided that you're going to have guests for some of those episodes. And then you're going to have to do the hard work of reaching out to guests, finding the right person, getting that scheduled, all the process of arranging an interview conversation so that you can get that episode recorded. But look what you've accomplished here. You have gotten legitimate topics on paper. You have sequenced those topics in a way that makes sense and will benefit your listeners. And you've created 3 bullet points under each one, so you have a rough outline to get going. That is a huge step forward. And in case you haven't thought of it already, once you're done, if you have other topics left on your list, you can set your timer again for 10 minutes and start at step 2 again and start sequencing the remaining topics in the order they should go in based on what you've already done. Then you can move on to the third 10-minute cycle, and you can bullet point those with subtopics so that you can get your entire list of brain dumped topics out. Now, what do you do if there are topics you decide you shouldn't cover? Well, you just mark them off. It's not a big deal. You just decide as you're going through the process what is going to serve your audience and what is not. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to me. It's Carey, Carey, @ podcastfasttrack.com.